Polling day may have passed, but the story of G 2025 didn't end on May 3rd. Over 9,000 votes were still uncounted, cast from all corners of the globe by Singaporeans living overseas. And now that they've finally been tallied, nearly 2 weeks later on May 15th, what did these overseas ballots reveal? Did they change any outcomes? Did they shift any narratives? Or do they quietly speak to something deeper, about who's voting, how they are voting, and what this means for the future of opposition politics? Welcome to 2230, where today we break down what the 9,329 overseas votes in G 2025 really tell us. If you've ever wondered whether your vote abroad really matters, or why some candidates received literally zero support from overseas, then stay with us, because these numbers are more revealing than you might think. Let's start with the headline everyone's talking about. Singapore Democratic Party's Chee Soon Juan actually beat PAP's Poh Li San in overseas votes. Yes, Dr. Chee received 23, compared to Poh's 21 in Sembawang West SMC. But before we start talking comeback story, let's not forget the bigger picture. When added to local votes, Dr. Chee still trails with 46.82% against Poh's 53.18%. That's a margin of 1,435 votes. So while symbolic, the overseas win wasn't enough to alter the result, but is it a signal of something else? Does Dr. Chee resonate more with overseas Singaporeans than those at home? Drop a comment and tell us what you think. Are overseas Singaporeans more opposition-leaning? But Chee's result isn't the only interesting data point. In Bukit Panjang SMC, we had a rare statistical tie. PAP's Liang Eng Wah and SDP's Tambyah each received exactly 36 overseas votes. Exact. Same. Count. A true overseas deadlock. But nationally, Liang still secured a commanding 61.38%, showing again how overseas votes are small, but potentially reflective of shifting undercurrents. Then there's Jalan Kayu SMC, where PAP's Ng Chee Meng edged out Workers' Party's Andre Low by just 3 overseas votes, 33 to 30. Again, this didn't flip the result, but these numbers suggest that support overseas is competitive, even in close races. But not everyone received votes. In what's probably the most brutal outcome, National Solidarity Party got 0 overseas votes in Tampine's GRC. Not one. In contrast, the People's Power Party, which also contested, received 3. Both parties lost their deposits, NSP with a dismal 0.18% overall vote share. What does that tell us about how voters, especially those overseas, treat less prominent or less organized parties? Are overseas Singaporeans more inclined to back major opposition like the WP or SDP, while skipping smaller players entirely? The overall turnout? Out of 17,237 registered overseas voters, only 9,329 actually voted, either by post or in person. That's about 54%. Not bad, but also not great when you consider how much effort it takes to register and vote from abroad. Should Singapore consider making overseas voting more accessible? The total turnout for G 2025 is now 92.83%. Boosted slightly thanks to these overseas ballots. But if just 0.01% of vote shares are shifting from these ballots, in a tightly contested future election, could overseas votes actually flip a seat? We're seeing a slow but steady rise in postal voting, 3,363 this year. But remember, 7,808 people downloaded postal ballots, and only 6,097 were returned. That's a massive drop-off. What happened? Were there delays? Confusion? Or just apathy? Let us know what you think. Should Singapore explore secure online voting for overseas citizens? Is there a better way to capture the voice of the global Singaporean? Hit like if you learned something new. Share this with someone who voted from abroad. Subscribe to 2230 for more deep dives into the stories that shape our politics. And of course, we want to hear your voice. Were you one of the overseas voters? If so, what motivated your choice? Because every vote counts, even if it's 10,000 kilometers away.